Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at this 2021 Cadillac Escalade. The Escalade is all new for 2021, just like the rest of General Motors full-size SUVs, those being the Chevrolet Tahoe, Chevrolet Suburban, GMC Yukon, GMC Yukon XL, and then I guess you could say GMC Yukon Denali and Yukon XL Denali. Anyway, though, the Escalade sits at the top of that pile. Like in generations past, it's available in both this standard length and as a long wheelbase ESV model. Think Tahoe versus Suburban. Beyond that, though, this is pretty much the ultimate luxury form of General Motors full-size SUV. This one packs the 6.4-liter V8 engine. It uses a 10-speed automatic transmission, and it's pretty well equipped when it comes to luxury features. So, as usual, let's do a tour of the outside, then the inside, and then take this thing for a drive. So like I said, all new design for 2021, and what I think is refreshing is that they really didn't go overboard with the styling. It's pretty blocky, but altogether somewhat subtle. You could say minimalist, maybe a little bit stark. Big Cadillac grille up front, that's one of the Escalade's calling cards. These headlights are really narrow. I mean, that's the headlight right there on this whole big front end. It's just that little narrow headlight. Anyway, daytime running light, LED strips, run down the side there. There's the Cadillac badge. Moving down the side, these are 22-inch wheels. They're pretty basic. They do say Cadillac right there, which is neat. Power running boards on this one. I'll give you a demo of that. Nice feature. Keeps it from looking too low to the ground, I guess, when they're in their retracted position. Also notice a Cadillac crest on this chrome C-pillar. Moving around back, taillights run the entire height of the D-pillar, I guess you could say. So from here all the way up here. The key in my pocket. Let's see if we can. So there's a little look at the lighting, and then there's some fun LED animation. Here's your badge. So it says Escalade here, Cadillac crest, and then this 600 number here, this is one of Cadillac's new badging structures. So this is badged a 600 because the 6.2-liter V8 engine makes, I believe, 624 Newton meters of torque. So that's not pounds feet, that's Newton meters. And Cadillac has rounded that number down to arrive at this 600 figure. I think that'll make sense as more and more electric vehicles come onto the market, but as of right now, I know we're all used to seeing horsepower and torque, so I think we'll just have to get used to this new Newton meter based naming structure. Anyway, you release the tailgate, not from any buttons under here, not from a button along the bottom. The release is actually in the Cadillac logo. They're taking a page out of Volkswagen's book here, actually. So that's a button, you press it, taillights blink, and the tailgate raises up. So you can actually set this tailgate at different heights, and right now I have it at the 3/4 height. That's why it looks a little bit low here, but know that it will raise higher than this. I almost hit my head at this height. Anyway, though, here's what the cargo area looks like with the third row in place. This is a 7-seater, so you got two, and then 3 across the third row here. Healthy amount of space here with the third row in place, about what you'd expect from a regular wheelbase, full-size SUV like the Escalade. Little additional storage space under here. You've got a really high-end AKG sound system in this one, so you'll notice speakers all throughout the cabin. You can put the third row down via these buttons right here. There's also an AC inverter back here. There's actually a couple of those in this vehicle, but we will go ahead and put down the third row. So it goes down pretty quickly, which is nice. And that's the amount of space you've got with the third row folded down. These door handles took a little getting used to. First of all, you'll notice that the touch sensor for the passive keyless entry system is a Cadillac crest. So to lock the vehicle, you just press that crest there, and that's only on the front doors. My 13-year-old Toyota Land Cruiser has it on all 4 doors, but this 6-figure Escalade here only has it on the front doors. Interesting. Anyway, though, there are some lights in the door handles as well, but what really took me some getting used to is the fact that these door handles don't move. They're actually fixed in place, and to open them, you squeeze a button. It's a long rectangular shaped button back here, and that powers an electronic release on the door. So we'll do that again. Look, I'm pulling on it. I'm not touching the button back there, but I'm pulling on the handle. It doesn't move. You just, kind of like in the Corvette, squeeze that button and the doors release. Once again, you'll notice the power running board. Climbing inside here, and this thing has a really nice interior. Before we touch on that though, I want to go back to one more thing with the doors. These are soft close doors, so you can just barely latch them and then they close automatically the rest of the way. We'll do that one more time. So the running board is now up. I don't really get the point of that, but it's a feature that's often found on high-end luxury vehicles, such as the Escalade here. Anyway, here is the window sticker. So you'll see this is a 2021 Cadillac Escalade four-wheel drive Platinum, so it's pretty much fully loaded. We'll get to why it isn't fully loaded in a minute here, but you can see it uses the 6.2 liter V8. The exterior is shadow metallic. It's kind of a dark blue, gray, silvery color, and then the interior is whisper beige with Gideon accents. It's a really nice color. As equipped though, this one comes in at $109,500. And like I mentioned, it's not even fully loaded. Fuel economy is rated at 14 city, 19 highway, 16 combined, keeping in mind that this is a four-wheel drive model. I know that long wheelbase Escalades get the exact same fuel economy as their regular wheelbase counterparts. You can also get this thing with a diesel engine. It's slightly down on horsepower, I should say significantly down on horsepower, but it makes the same torque figures. It just makes them significantly lower in the rev range. That diesel engine is a no-cost option, which is interesting. If you're going to be doing towing, the gas Escalade actually has a higher tow rating than the diesel, but given that that torque figure comes on so much lower in the rev range, the max torque comes on something like 1500 RPM in the diesel. I think in terms of driving dynamics, it's going to be nicer to tow with the diesel. Anyway though, that is the window sticker. Key takeaway there, not even loaded, still comes in at just $500 shy of $110,000. So one of the new Escalade's main calling cards is this big driver-centric screen display here. So this is your main infotainment display. You've got things like navigation, media. There's your home button where you've got all kinds of other options there. But then you've also got this digital gauge cluster. I guess we'll still call it a gauge cluster. And you can change it to display all kinds of different things. So you've got regular gauge, shows you your speed. A second map, so you can actually pull up two different maps. Well, I guess they're the same map, but displayed on both screens. And then there's also an augmented reality camera and a night vision system, though it needs to be dark for us to test that out. Anyway, though, it's a pretty well thought out screen system here. I like this supplemental touchscreen off to the side here. I found this to be pretty easy to use. And then the gauge cluster here is pretty fine also. I think it's probably best to just drive with it on the map setting or the gauge setting. The AR camera is really kind of bizarre. That works with the navigation system. So when the vehicle wants to convey a navigation command to you, it'll put an arrow up on the screen there. Mercedes-Benz products do this as well, but they generally do it on this screen over here. But anyway, pretty well conceived infotainment, digital gauge cluster, digital button setup in the Escalade here. I really like this interior. I think I've mentioned that before. It's just really open and airy, and there's a lot of different really nice materials used. Let's start over here on the door panel. Here you've got a gray leather with nice contrast white stitching. Step down and you've got this brown wood paneling. I guess we can get a better look at it over here on the center console, but it's all these different wood strips, and it doesn't look like they've followed any kind of pattern, which is actually pretty neat here because you get dark, light, 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 dark, light, 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 dark, dark, 4 light ones, 1 dark one, 1 light one. It's just really nice. You can tell probably an interior designer had a hand in designing the interior of the Escalade here. Moving on, another highlight is this fabric right here. So leather, wood, leather, but right here is a fabric, and that actually goes all the way down the door panel. So fabric, 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 and then you get to basically just a hard plastic here, but that fabric covers the bottom of the dash as well. So over here on the glove box door, this is all fabric, and then it goes onto the other door panels as well. So that's a really nice touch. Altogether, this interior in terms of materials is really high end. Over here, you've got your buttons for the heated seats, window controls, all automatic. Here you've got your four-wheel drive controls, so auto, it's pretty much like all-wheel drive, then 2 high, 4 high, hill descent control, and then a couple different driving modes, tour, sport, off-road, and a tow haul mode. There is LED lighting, LED light strips across the door panels and then across the dashboard, and that actually changes as you cycle through these different driving modes here. So when you go to sport, I know you're not gonna be able to really see it because it's light out. The lighting turns red. You just have to trust me. As you go to off-road, I think it turns orange, tow haul is white, and then touring mode is also a different shade of white, so that's pretty fun. There's also an air suspension that's operated via these buttons right here, so it defaults to a middle setting. You've also got an entry-exit mode, and then press this button, and you've got an increased ground clearance setting as well. I can actually feel the car raising up as we speak. Heads-up display, so it's showing 0 miles per hour right there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's also a blank speed limit symbol that would show you the speed limit if you're out on the road. Up above, there's this really nice big panoramic sunroof. So this part opens, and then that part's just glass. You can close the shade as well, obviously. I really like to have the shade open though because it's just so bright in here with it open. Other things up here, this is kind of interesting. This is where you can adjust the opening height of the rear liftgate. So right now you can see it's on 3/4, but we'll turn it to max, and then next time we open the liftgate, it'll open all the way. You can put down the second row seats via these buttons here. This is all sunroof stuff. Another thing, this 36 speaker AKG sound system is really great. I've played it really loud over the course of this week, and at no point did I find its limits. You can turn the volume all the way up, and it still doesn't sound too loud, and that's really the mark of a high quality audio system. I gotta say, that's definitely one of the major pluses of the Escalade here. As for the rest of the center console, this is your transmission lever. I call it the Cadillac baby hand. You'll find it in other Cadillac products, but basically we're in park right now. To go into drive, you press this and pull back. To go into reverse, you press this, go forward, and then to go into neutral, you press forward from drive there. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's not so bad. Auto hold, start, stop, on, off, lane keep, assist, on, off. And then this button, so infotainment system's a touchscreen, but you can also adjust things via this dial right here. And that's good to see. We want to see redundant controls for the infotainment system. If you're going to have a console knob, you also still have to have a touchscreen. And still, in a lot of these luxury vehicles, it's also nice to have the console knob because you can operate it while you're driving with your elbow resting on the armrest. Speaking of the armrest, this thing is actually a refrigerator. This is another option, and it really does work. I had a drink in there earlier, and I cooled it down from room temperature. It was nice to pull it out of there while I was driving and have a cold drink. It's really nice. You can turn the box on and off here. This turns on one of the inverters, and then you've got another USB-C and USB-A port there. Then one more thing, cup holders, USB-C, USB-A, and then this is your wireless charging pad, or maybe in this case we'll call it a wireless charging slot. So you just put your phone in there like that. There's no light or anything. You just get feedback via the infotainment system that tells you your device is charging. This is key because this vehicle also has wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, which is a new one for me. So I've set this up so that Android Auto just connects automatically when I get in the car. But what I've noticed is that it really drains battery life. I got in the car earlier today with 58%. This is a Google Pixel 3. I've really not got any issues with the battery life on this thing. Got in the car with 58% though. Wireless Android Auto came on automatically, and by the time I got out of the car, I was at 32%. So this thing ate through 26% battery life in about an hour and a half of driving. Then the other weird thing is I got out of the car, went in my house, the car was turned off, and next thing I knew, my phone was down to 17%. So I'm not sure if the phone attempts to stay connected to the Wi-Fi from the vehicle, but either way, it feels like a really half-baked system to have wireless Android Auto absolutely decimate your battery like that. So at this point, I'd still keep a wire in the car if I wanted to use Android Auto. Anyway, though, that about sums up the front seating area of the Escalade here. Let's hop in the second row, put the car in park first, and check out the captain's chairs back there. Cabin's also really quiet. That guy's blowing a leaf blower outside right now, and I know you could hear it outside. I don't know that you can hear it very clearly in here though. Okay, in the second row here, and you can see there is plenty of room and there are plenty of amenities as well. So, captain's chairs, like I said, this is a 7-passenger model. They can be adjusted via this lever here to slide them forward and backward, and then you can adjust the backrest via this lever, so I can recline pretty far actually. Plenty of knee room, plenty of leg room. Flat floors are really nice because then you can really sprawl out back here. Probably noticed this thing. This is an entertainment screen, so to activate it, tap it twice and you can watch things, you can play music, and you can navigate. This is pretty cool. So you can send directions to the driver. So say maybe an older generation is driving, there's a younger, more technologically literate person sitting in the second row. They can actually find the destination. So let's type Utah State Capital. It's pretty quick. And then that brings us to the state capital. And then we hit send. It says request sent. And then it says address received from rear seat, Utah State Capital. So that's pretty convenient. When you're driving, you don't want to be the one typing in navigation directions and attempting to drive, so allowing your other passengers to do that is huge. It's really nice to see technology leveraged in this way because honestly, it makes this vehicle easier to use and easier to live with. Anyway though, screen's pretty nice. It's relatively high resolution. Looks like there is a couple different ways to watch things. So you can do USB video. You'll notice HDMI, USB-C, and then there's an AC inverter. So theoretically, you could set up a video game system back here, which is pretty cool. You've also got heated seats and then independent HVAC controls back here as well. The second row is not ventilated though, I did notice that. But beyond that, plenty of room back here. Up above, you've got an air vent, a light, a coat hook, and then another of those 36 speakers from the AKG sound system. Over on the door panel, handle, lock, unlock, and then one touch up and down windows. Okay, let's now test out the third row. So you can actually put down the second row seat right here. So I'm just gonna reach around, do that, and then if you press it again, and it releases and flips up. So that's pretty convenient. And then what's nice about this third row is even though it's power, you can also lift it manually, and it's pretty easy to lift manually. You don't feel like you're fighting any motors or anything like that. So pretty easy access to the third row there. And then we'll climb back here. And with the second row back in place and the third row up, you can see you've got plenty of room back here as well. That's kind of the difference between these full-size SUVs and a mid-size crossover, like, say, keeping in the Cadillac family, the XT6. In the XT6, the third row there is still probably best for kids. Adults could probably ride in it over short distances and be relatively comfortable. But in the Escalade here, an adult would have no issues riding in the third row for a sustained period. You've got cup holder, little place to put stuff, and a USB-C port right there also. Seatbelt is in the D pillar there. The middle seatbelt is in the ceiling, and then there's also an air vent, and then a light, nice LED lights, really clean light there. And yeah, that's about it for the third row. There it is, with the entire bench extended, and yeah, you can sprawl out back here too. And once again, it's a flat load floor. So thumbs up to the Escalade's third row. Put these down though for driving. So you can see this seat slid up when it folded down. Slide that back and we're out. Car's already turned on. Set the baby hand to drive, and we're off. Seatbelt automatically tensions. Another thing that comes in this trim level of the Escalade is Cadillac's excellent magnetic ride control suspension. So you've got an air suspension and magnetic ride control. Overall, that makes for a really smooth, sublime ride. This augmented reality camera is trippy. I'm gonna have to turn it to gauge. It's really distracting when you've got the view in front of you and then also a camera feed of the view in front of you in the gauge cluster. It's really weird. There's 50, so it's relatively quick. Like I said, 6.2 liter V8 engine makes 420 horsepower and 460 pounds-feet of torque. That is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And what's interesting about that transmission is it was actually developed by Ford. It's the same transmission you'll find in the F-150, the Expedition, the Ranger, the Mustang, the Explorer, the upcoming Bronco. Pretty much every one of Ford's rear-wheel drive based vehicles uses this 10-speed automatic transmission. And GM uses it in a number of their vehicles now as well. In GM vehicles though, the transmission is built by GM. So Ford designed it and they build it for their products. In GM vehicles, it's still designed by Ford, but in this case, it's assembled by GM. Yeah, no complaints about the acceleration. Everything feels really smooth. The cabin is pretty nicely insulated from a sound deadening standpoint. Yeah, this is definitely a luxury SUV. Materials all feel pretty good. Steering wheel is a nice leather. It's got some stitching in it. This thing has paddle shifters. They're an okay material. GM still hasn't mastered the turn signal stock. Even in the $110,000 Escalade Platinum here, it still kind of bends until it snaps. In both of my Toyota Land Cruisers have a nicer turn signal stock than this. It's not as bad as it is in the Silverado, but it could still be nicer in this $110,000 Escalade. But it's a minor thing. It's not that big of a deal. As far as infotainment goes, it's pretty easy to use while you're driving. I don't have any complaints there other than the fact that wireless Android Auto absolutely sucks a phone battery dry. It's really quite remarkable how quickly it drains your phone. No real rattles. I take that back. I don't know if that's a seatbelt or a headrest, but I do hear something when we go over bigger bumps. Sounds like a panel or something. Still, again, it's something that could be ignored. I like the design of the new Escalade. Like I said earlier on in the video, it's not too in your face, which is nice. Especially in this spec right here. It's relatively subtle, kind of flies under the radar. The 22-inch wheels are probably the most subtle 22-inch wheels I've ever seen. Same with the grille. It's big, but it's not as insane as you might have expected. Earlier on in the video, I mentioned that this one actually isn't fully loaded. That's because it doesn't have Super Cruise. You can get Super Cruise on the Escalade. It's a $2,500 option. And yeah, I'm surprised that this one doesn't have it. You'd think that General Motors would want to include that in their press loaners because it's probably one of the best things GM has going for it right now. Super Cruise is General Motors' semi-autonomous driving system. It's one of, if not the most advanced system on the market. I believe it's more advanced than what Tesla has right now. And essentially, on the highway, it will basically pilot the vehicle down the road for you, provided you're facing forward with your eyes on the road. Really wish I had been able to test that out. So acceleration from a dead stop there, I hit the pedal kind of hard and it didn't really lurch. It was still pretty smooth. Coming up on our speed bumps here, we'll test out the magnetic ride control. That was at 22 miles per hour. Didn't really get any lift out of the back end, which is good. This one will be at 30. Wow. Wow, that's actually 31 miles per hour. It felt really smooth. You barely even noticed it. This will be at 35. Wow, okay. That's the fastest I've ever gone over that third speed bump there, and it's bigger than the other two. And I'll also say it wasn't at all eventful. Compared to any of the other vehicles, this was probably the smoothest, even though I went over that speed bump at about 10 miles per hour faster than I normally do. Backup camera's pretty nice. So you get a large backup view and then a top-down view off to the side. Kind of small, but still, top-down views are nice, especially when you're driving a big vehicle. Okay, so there is your look at the 2021 Cadillac Escalade. Like I've said, this thing is fully loaded except for the omission of Super Cruise, which is kind of a bummer. Would have liked to test that out. You can also get the Escalade in a sport trim. It's not above or below the platinum trim, really. And the only difference is the sport has darkened features. Maybe looks a little bit more youthful, where the luxury here is maybe a little bit more old money, sophisticated. 10 years ago, I probably would have chosen the sport, but I really like this luxury here right now. It's somewhat understated, which I'm starting to see the benefits of. So as far as this vehicle goes in the grand scheme of full-size luxury SUVs, the closest competitor to the Escalade is the Lincoln Navigator. You've also got the upcoming Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Moving over to Europe, you've got the BMW X7 and Mercedes-Benz GLS, and then there's also the full-size Range Rover. So this segment consists of probably 6 or 7 vehicles, all of which are pretty impressive because they've got to be. They're all mostly over 6 figures. The Escalade is going to be more of a workhorse. It is built on a GM truck platform, so towing capacity is pretty impressive. Long distance travel is going to be extremely comfortable in this thing. The second and third rows are pretty functional, as is the cargo area. And as far as the interior here goes, aside from maybe some bare plastic here and there, this thing's pretty nice. I love this wood trim here. It's a really interesting pattern. I also love the fabric surfaces on the lower halves of the door panels and dashboards, also on the center console here. And then just the color choices are really nice as well. This like light beige over a light gray is really nice. That said, I did notice one of the captain's chairs is slightly discolored already. Looks like someone was probably sitting back there with jeans. That tends to happen in these light colored interiors. I do have to wonder what this interior is going to look like in 2 or 3 years, but straight off the lot, it's nice enough. And yeah, I think that about sums up the new Escalade. This thing has more or less set the standard in this segment for a while now. It's been Cadillac's best-selling vehicle for a number of years. Frankly, it's probably the only Cadillac that I find compelling here in 2021. The rest of the lineup has gotten pretty stale. But given that this is the brand's moneymaker, not to mention a big moneymaker for GM as a whole, the company has clearly put a lot of effort into the latest Escalade here. Thanks for watching.